Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of covers, checking out a band doing their original work and then another band covering it, hopefully in a rather diverse way. I'm expecting that today, since yesterday we checked out Radiohead's Packed Like Sardines in a Crushed Tin Box. That title threw me off yesterday too. I don't know what it is about it. It's a tough one. But we checked out Radiohead's original version of it, and it was very digital. And today we're going to be checking out the Punch Brothers doing, I don't think there's a the, I think it's just Punch Brothers. They are, as you can see in this thumbnail, acoustic bluegrass. They play guitars and violins and cellos and stuff. So it's going to be really interesting because a lot of how I understood the song was through its sonic identity. The music was kind of secondary to that, expanding upon what it was doing sonically, but still secondary to it. So much of the way I remember the song is the tones of the instruments. So what happens when you take something digital and unique and turn it into, or I suppose arrange it for traditional instrumentation? And I think that's what I'm going to be looking forward to with Punch Brothers. Let's dive into this and see how they interpret this song. Oh, they don't have percussion. So they're using a string instrument to cover the more percussive, actually they're using two string instruments to cover the more percussive sections of this song. That's impressive. Really impressive arrangement skills on display.
I'm a reasonable man, get off my case. I'm a reasonable man, get off my case, get off my case.
Dude, their voices are so similar. You just barely get a stereo imaging on that, but their voices kind of synced up wildly.
After years of waiting, nothing came, and you realize you're looking in the wrong place. I'm a reasonable man, get off my case, get off my case. I'm a reasonable man, get off my case, get off my case. Get off my case. I'm a reasonable man. Get off my case. Get off my case. Get off my case. get off my case, get off my case. I'm a reasonable man, get off my case, get off my case, get off my case. I'm a reasonable man, get off my case, get off my case, get off my case. I'm a reasonable man, get off my case, get off my case, get off my case.
I'm a bit gobsmacked. That was phenomenal. It is a very different song, though. I think it still generally achieves the similar intentions of Radiohead's, but through a different manner. It's very cool. So, I don't know if I want to like just analyze it first or jump straight into the comparisons to Radiohead's version because I'm kind of eager to get into talking about that. um, let me just start with what they're doing right here. So we have the first instrument that comes in, and y'all need to correct me on this. That is a very small guitar. It almost looks violin-like, but it's played with the back against the performer's body and is frequently... let me look at this real quick. No, it's picked. Yeah. I wish this video was more than 240p. I really wish I could get a little bit more clarity. I probably know the instrument, but I can't. It's evading me. Y'all can let me know, though, in the comments what that instrument is. Anyways, we kick it off, and we have a really percussive element to it. On beats 2 and 4, we have a short staccato, higher pitched strum, and that is accompanied by quieter, lower pitched strums that create a bit more of a faster rhythmic pulse around that 2 and 4 accent. Eventually, the the acoustic guitar comes in, and we get more percussive elements around this. We're really building the rhythmic bed to this song. I love that. I think that's a really cool way to go about adapting a song that has so many rhythmic and percussive elements to it when you don't have percussion players in your group. You don't have a drum kit. You don't have, like a marching snare or like probably not a marching snare, but a orchestral snare or like a bass drum in your group. You just have a bunch of string instruments. What do? Well, play them a bit more percussively. Really smart way of going around doing that. After that, we bring in the cello bass line. We have that descending idea, dun, 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 but then there's a little bit of a da-da-da-da. There's a little bit of a movement to that final note that I don't think was in the original, and I'm already doing the comparison. I didn't want to do this, but there is this extra bit there. I thought that was a nice little touch to kind of put their own swing on it. But from there, we just kind of get the song, right? We put some lyrics on top of it. The vocalist, same melody, do this verse, chorus thing. And then we get the instrumental bit. Lots of tension in here on that lead instrument that I can't name right now. Really cool ideas on this. Lots of noise being created, harmonic noise. There's a lot of tension in here and instability. rhythmic noise. I'd even say timbral noise, as there seems to just be a lot of different picking techniques going on. There's some scraping, there's some picking, there's muted notes, there's notes that are allowed to ring out. We also have alongside this the acoustic guitar. Why do I keep saying classic guitar? We have the acoustic guitar, and they're also incorporating scrapes and slides alongside their picking to create a section here that's just super tense, sonically tense, just a lot of strange noises coming together in a sort of cacophony. Eventually, the violinist on stage right, but to the left of the video, begins just bowing what seems to be random notes, once again adding to the harmonic complexity and instability of the song. All of this feeling like it's building up into something large as the volume rises, the layers and textures and sounds and notes and harmonies rise, and then we just return back to the chorus. The energy sort of diminishes and we wrap the song up. It's an eclectic way to play most of these instruments, and I think they did a fantastic job at creating something listenable out of it. And this is where the comparisons are really going to start bleeding into this analysis segment. The original wasn't really too focused on musicality. In fact, I talked about how simple it would be once you just transcribe it to sheet music. A lot of its identity and core is in the way that it sounds. There are certainly parts of the composition that support that, but the composition is secondary. Here, though, the composition must be primary. They don't have the benefit of odd timbres and production, post-production and engineering side of things to do things digitally and electronic. It's just a couple of people with acoustic instruments and some microphones. No pedals, no amps, no audio workstations to manipulate stuff. And so they take a very different route to end up at the same place. How can we play these instruments in a less traditional way to still achieve this feeling of incompleteness, of tension, of escalating energy? Now, that's not to say that these techniques have never been used before. Maybe there is something that one of them invented in order to play this song this way, but as far as I could hear and as far as I saw, these are things that have been done by other people on these instruments in the past. But it's still a very cool way of recognizing, hey, these are the techniques I'm going to need to perform this sound. I'm going to have to play this instrument in this way. And you just have to, have that knowledge to know that you can do it. To think outside the box. And so where we kind of have in the original sounds that feel like other instruments, but have textures shaved off so they feel incomplete, here we just have unusual ways of performing these instruments. We have the slides and the scrapes and the sharp picking. We have the really quick movements on, especially the violin on the dude on the left over there, just rapidly shifting notes across all of the strings, creating this cacophony of timbres. Each string has its own feeling. If you play the same note on two strings, you're still going to get slightly different sounds out of them. And so we're jumping between all of these timbres, all of these pitches, and also the compositional side comes into this as well. There are quite a few ideas in that penultimate section of the song that I don't recall in Radiohead's version. This is quite a bit more cacophonous than Radiohead's version, which primarily just dealt with slightly unresolved chord progressions. That's where most of the tension came from. But here we're focusing on sort of a lack of harmonic identity at all. It is harmonic chaos. Pitches just flying at us from all directions, from all sorts of modes and keys. In fact, there at the end, it looked like that one instrument player was just randomly playing notes. His left hand just moving up and down, hitting whatever note or string it lands on, and the other hand just strumming as fast as he can. I'm sure there was more guide to it. It was a bit more aimed, but it looked completely random. All of this really leans into the harmonic tension, where the original Radiohead track really reveled in creating a sound that felt unresolved. This goes in the harmonic direction of irresolution. It achieves that same feeling through a different parameter of the music. And so, I don't really get as much of this from the verse and chorus like I did with Radiohead's, but this bridge certainly adds to this feeling of the powder keg, as I mentioned yesterday. This rising energy, we have more layers, we have more harmonic elements, we have more textures, we have rising volume. Everything feels like it's rising to a point, and instead of going in that direction, it all just diminishes out. It just becomes at a certain point. There is still the general harmonic descent that we have in the bass line, although I do feel like it's a bit more resolved because of that movement at the end of it that Radiohead didn't have, but it still implies a series of tense notes, with the resolution here being a bit more directed, but still in an odd place. It's still a strange final note for the three key tones that precedes it. I think it still does a great job of setting up expectations and then not delivering on it. Ooh, and another good one too. We do have an interesting beginning with the percussive string playing, but generally speaking, the verse and the chorus of this cannot help you predict or prepare yourself for the very avant-garde bridge. That is another way that I think it does a great job of setting up expectations and then not delivering on them and putting that weight on the listener. Why were you expecting that anyways? The song was never going to do that. Trying to bring this back to some of the lyrics, the ideas of waiting for something that isn't going to come, for having expectations for the way things will be, and the expectations not being reasonable. The song will never do that. If you expect this song to have a normal, mainstream listenable bridge, it's not going to happen. You're looking in the wrong place for that. That's something we didn't really get with Radiohead's, which was, for me at least, a consistently uncanny listening experience. Everything feels a little off in that one, but this one starts a bit more traditional. It then devolves into something way more experimental than Radiohead did, at least on a harmonic side of things. And so where Radiohead was rather balanced the entire time, being consistently just a little bit off, Punch Brothers starts off pretty reasonable and ends up in places that are wild. And I find that balances the equation just the same way as Radiohead's consistency. Again, coming to the same conclusion, I think telling the same story musically and using the same melodies and harmonies, but doing it in their own way. Because their instrumentation is different, they really had to think about, hey, how are we going to represent these ideas if we can't represent the sounds? And honestly, this is solid arrangement. Punch Brothers definitely deserves more praise I mean, maybe they're already getting a lot of praise for this, but they deserve a ton of praise for, if nothing else, just this performance as far as arrangement goes. And this is something that I've talked about in the past a lot, is how important a job arrangement actually is. It is the make or break of translating music between ideas, whether it is taking someone else's work and putting your spin on it, or taking your own work and just adjusting it, whether you want to reimagine it or you just want to make a stripped down acoustic version of something that's electronic or digital or amplified. Arrangement is a very key skill for these moments of trying to capture the same meaning with different tools. And Punch Brothers knocked it out of the park with this, putting their own spin on it, certainly making it theirs while still retaining the same emotional ride and feeling. I mean, that's just phenomenal. We'll go through the lyrics real quick. As far as I heard, they're identical to the original, and again, there just isn't a lot going on there. After years of waiting, nothing came as your life flashed before your eyes. You realize that I'm a reasonable man. After years of waiting, nothing came, and you realized you're looking in the wrong place. It is still a song about having expectations not being met because your expectations are ill-placed to begin with. That what you wanted to happen was never going to happen, and you feeling any sort of negative emotion about that is not my fault, it's your fault for expecting it in the first place. And like I said, this song approaches that concept. Now, granted, it's a vague idea. Lyrically, it can be applied to a lot of different situations, but in the musical sense, they find a very different way of doing that while still focusing on the growth and tension rising without release that Radiohead did as well, just simply achieving it in a different manner. Still sonic and texturally, but this time with techniques of the instrument rather than parameters of digital sounds. Yeah, dude, this is cool. I've enjoyed Punch Brothers' work in the past, just of their original writing. I think they're phenomenal. I still haven't done any sort of deep dive on my own, but every time I get a chance to listen to them, it is a blast. And I think this just skyrocketed my appreciation of them as composers and performers, and adding in arrangers into that mix. It just solidifies the idea that I need to check out more of their work sometime soon, I hope. There's just so much music, especially with me learning about, 2 to 3 artists every week, give or take. The list just keeps growing, and I will never get through it. There's always going to be some bands who I just don't get a chance to check out, and that's just life, I suppose. Having too much media to explore is a good problem, I'd say. So, let's wrap this up then. These are my thoughts on Punch Brothers' version of Packed Like Sardines in a Crushed Tin Box. I got the whole title that time. Let me know your thoughts, though. Did you enjoy it? Is there anything that stood out to you? Is there anything that you wish I had talked about, especially in its relationship to Radiohead's original? Or maybe I misspoke about something and you need to correct me. Maybe I need educated on that one instrument. Put anything you'd like to add and any other thoughts you have about this track down into the comment section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all 3 of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.